The virtues of a gentleman are the qualities that separate just a regular man from a gentleman. What are the virtues that a man needs to observe and practice in order to be admired and respected by society as a gentleman? In this episode of the Gentleman's Brotherhood, I'm going to share with you some virtues that we identified as being core virtues that you need to observe in order to be a real gentleman. All this and more on this episode of the Gentleman's Brotherhood. Welcome back to the Gentleman's Brotherhood. I am your host, Juan Sepulveda, and I thank you for spending some time with me exploring that which makes us a better man today. I want to discuss some virtues that we identified as being core to our development as gentlemen. You see, there are qualities and virtues that, when observed, can bring a boy and transform him into a man. And we're going to discuss those on a later episode of the Gentleman's Brotherhood. But on this one, we want to focus on men. If you're already a man, you consider yourself to be a man, what qualities and virtues you need to observe in order to really give yourself the opportunity to be the best gentleman that you can be. But before we go in detail into those, I wanted to say thank you to all our supporters on Patreon. I'll explain later on the role that they play in making this content possible and how you can benefit from some of the perks that they get access to. But more on that later. The first virtue that we've identified as being core to the development of a gentleman is the virtue of courage. As you've seen in the slogan that we use in the Gentleman's Brotherhood, courage and courtesy are two very important virtues to our system. And the definition of courage is the ability to do something despite of our fear. Now notice it doesn't say not having fear. Courage doesn't mean not having fear. It means acting despite the fear. Here's a quote that I really enjoy from Ernest Hemingway. He says, "Courage is grace under pressure." A perfect example there. Anytime that you encounter something that makes you nervous, that makes you doubt yourself, that makes you consider, should I do this or should I not? Many times it's just fear whispering in your ear. And it doesn't mean that this fear is not going to exist. You become courageous when you defy that fear and you still press on and tackle whatever it is that you're considering. The second part of our slogan is courtesy. And this is the second virtue that I think we need to embody in order to be considered gentlemen. The definition of courtesy is the display of politeness or respect in one's attitude and behavior towards others. This is us having a kind demeanor, having an approachable sense of being. Whenever you interact with other people, you treat them with respect, you treat them with kindness. Many times people, I'm sure you know, it feels like they don't deserve respect, that they don't deserve kind treatment. But I'll tell you, courtesy is something that goes a long way in helping you open doors, mend relationships, establish yourself as an individual. So observing the virtue of courtesy is a very important step in being a gentleman. The next virtue is purpose. And purpose is defined as the reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. I really love a quote from Robert Burns that says, "The purpose of life is a life of purpose." I ask you, what is your true north? Who do you live for other than just yourself? Is there something for which you're very passionate, that you know you can contribute significantly? What is your purpose? Getting to connect with a purpose and living with that purpose in mind will set you apart from people that are just wandering aimlessly through life. So having purpose is a great quality for a gentleman to have. The next one is reliability. The definition of which is the quality of being trustworthy, or of performing consistently well. I love a quote that I found from Ralph Waldo Emerson that says, "When friendships are real, they are not glass threads or frost work, but the solidest things we can know." Consistency, fidelity, being able to be trustworthy to other people by the example that you lead, the quality of work that you do, the attention to detail. When you keep your word is your bond. Whenever you tell someone, "I'm going to do this," you do it. That breeds reliability. This is one of those qualities that you can't fake it. This is one that you really have to embody and make sure that you hold yourself accountable to the things you say you're going to do. Do them. Be reliable. The next virtue on the list is introspection. Introspection is defined as the examination or observation of one's own mental and emotional processes. It is being able to look inside yourself, do an honest assessment of who you are, find what really is important to you, what makes you move, what makes you act, what makes you angry. Knowing all these things will prepare you to be able to act in an honorable way, in a way that is worthy of a gentleman. For this one, I have a quote from Socrates that says, "An unexamined life is not worth living." You can go through life not knowing yourself, not knowing your place in the world. But I think it's a very, very fruitful exercise to frequently look inside yourself, measure where you are, what progress you're making, and whether you have the answers of who you really are, and can other people see them. The next one is dignity. The definition of it is the state or quality of being worthy of honor or respect. Now, if you pay attention to all the other ones that I shared with you, you can see how this one is one that is very closely related to the rest. By being reliable, by being courageous, by being courteous, you are able to develop this dignity or this self-worth that you carry. You do things in an honorable kind of way. The quote that I have for this one comes from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "All labor that uplifts humanity has dignity and importance and should be undertaken with painstaking excellence." How beautiful that this is a call to action for people to recognize what are the things that will preserve the dignity, in this case, in this quote, of humanity. But in your personal life, what are the things that are going to cement that honor that you carry with you? Carrying that dignity, that self-respect that you carry for yourself is projected out into the world. People can see that you carry yourself with dignity, that you don't compromise and you don't lie and you don't cheat and you don't do the things that are going to erode that dignity. You have that consciousness and that little voice in the back of your head that tells you, this is not, what you're doing is not right. Being able to fight that voice and preserve your dignity makes you a better gentleman. Last but not least is the virtue of empathy, which can be defined as the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. I love a quote by Alfred Adler that says, "Empathy is seeing with the eyes of another, listening with the ears of another, and feeling with the heart of another." Empathy is your ability to develop compassion and understanding for the situation of another sentient being. Obviously, empathy is not limited to just human-to-human interaction. You can feel empathy for an animal. You can feel empathy for creation, for humankind. You can feel empathy for so many different things. But it shows a level of excellence in you that you are able to, despite your inability to share a history with someone, you can still put yourself mentally in their shoes, borrow some of their thought process, and act accordingly. Showing kindness, love, compassion, the kind of care that you can for another human being. It sets you apart from people that are cruel, that are heartless, emotionless, that are selfish, and they don't care for the suffering that they may impose on other people. Empathy is that catalyst that helps you bring justice, equality into society as a whole. I truly hope that you're able to embody the virtue of empathy as you move in your process to grow as a gentleman. Well, there you have it. Those are the 7 virtues or qualities that we identified as being core to the development of a man into a gentleman. Of course, in this short video, we don't have all the time in order to discuss them at length and give you examples on how to put them to practice into your life. But don't worry, we're going to be here providing you good content that is going to help you in that process. So we're going to take each and every one of these qualities and we're going to focus on them deeply and help you get to assimilate them, practice them. Even if you know them from before, being able to better practice them and put them to play in your life is going to really make a difference in your quality of life and the quality of life of the people that surround you. I hope that you found this episode edifying, that you found it to be entertaining and educational, that you found it good enough to share with someone that you think can benefit from learning these qualities of becoming a gentleman, and that you take them to heart. Feel free to watch this over and over as much as you need to. We'll provide some details on them through our social media, so make sure to follow us everywhere. But like I promised at the beginning, I wanted to say a special thanks to our supporters on Patreon. Those who support our efforts on Patreon, they make a commitment to help us continue to produce content that helps men in their development from men to gentlemen. They do so by subscribing to a monthly contribution to the show, but in return, they get first access to all of our content. They get a voice and a vote in our decision making. How do we choose our episodes? When do we publish them? So if you want to be a part of that and also get access to our exclusive lapel pin with the Gentleman's Brotherhood logo, make sure to go to patreon.com/Juan Sepulveda. As always, I want to thank you for spending this time with me exploring the intricacies of what makes a man a gentleman. I hope that you can find a way to support our show. It could be very easy. It could be as simple as just sharing this video with people on social media by posting it on your blog. You can also leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast player. It helps other men discover this kind of content and hopefully help them become better gentlemen. Finally, by visiting our store, thegentleman'sbrotherhood.com, where you can find apparel like the one you see me wearing, our exclusive hat, our shirt with our seal, and many more things. I invite you to go to thegentleman'sbrotherhood.com and help support our show. Whichever way you choose to help us, thank you. And lastly, I want to send you out into the world with that sense of pride that you are actually making a difference by becoming a better man today. Until next time, I wish you courage and courtesy.